Hey, Internet. I swear my door just opened, but it didn't. I think they peeked and they got scared. Yeah. Am I live? Yeah, I'm live. I got a viewer question for today, and I think it's a good one. And it's one that I don't want to beat around the bush on necessarily. I kind of want to go straight at it. Thank you for the like, by the way. Appreciate that. Always do. And if you listen to my podcast, I've touched on this. I've dropped this idea other places. I don't want to. I don't want to misfocus, but at the same time, it's a big deal, and so I don't know how to not focus on it. So let's go ahead and start in on this, and then we'll see if I can at least give us a framework for dealing with this, right? So it is written, Rev Fisk, love your work. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Love your work. I have a question for you. I noticed in your recent video about heaven that you referenced your habit of focusing on your breath and connecting to your body. Many Christians insist that any practice of meditation, mindfulness, breath meditation, yoga, etc., is pagan and should not even be considered by believers. While others find such things helpful, what is your opinion? Is there a line we should not cross? If so, where is it? Thanks so much for all you do. So I answered a question about mindfulness years ago, and I talked about the dangers of thinking that you were going to find some sort of special spirituality in Eastern thought. And that video is no longer available, not because I don't think what I said was true, but because I wasn't as aware of what mindfulness really is, or maybe sometimes is, when I answered it. And someone pointed that out to me in the comments, like, well, I think you're talking about something else. And I said, well, yeah, I might be. Sure, I might be. Well, since then, I have, in fact, learned to practice mindfulness. And it is one of the most essential parts of my day. I connect it closely with my practice of Christian prayer, but I don't confuse the two at all. But let me try to just break that down, though, without going too deep. Because here's the thing. And this is where the Christians who say you can't do it are right. Because they are, in a sense. I really mean this. If you don't know your faith, if you do not have a clear and present understanding of what you believe, why you believe it, according to the fullness of the revelation of God in the Scriptures, particularly if you don't know the difference between mysticism and real justification, well, you got no business. You got no business listening to anybody about any such thing, because you won't be able to tell the difference. And when the teachers of these Eastern thoughts invariably cannot separate what they are teaching that is true from what they are teaching that is false, for reasons that are dogmatic, and your faith could help you understand this, when they can't do it, you won't be able to do it either, because you won't have the categories, the structure, the faith, the understanding to do it. So generally speaking, my answer to you, should you go do yoga, is probably not. Probably not. And that's not because a person can't sit in a dark room and breathe and stretch for an hour, more or less focusing on all the elastic bands in their body, which they have through sad American diet and lack of exercise and failure to pay attention to their body's needs, allowed to go completely bad over the last 35 or 50 years. It's not that you can't do that. The issue is when you would do that, and then you would think it was somehow, well, spirituality, which sadly is what Hinduism more or less teaches, and more or less will get you to and take you to eventually. So that's the danger. That's the threat. But see, if you know enough about your faith that you can go into a room and you can basically say, okay, we're breathing right now. Okay, we're stretching right now. Okay, we're breathing right now. Okay, we're stretching right now. And that's most of it. I mean, the times I've done it, and I really do enjoy yoga as a breathing, stretching cool down, really. If you do that, you got about 50 minutes of an hour-long session is going to be just stretching, breathing, stretching, breathing, stretching, breathing. There's a lot of names for things, mountain and whatever dog. And instead of thinking of those as spiritual, sometimes they kind of have a spiritual name, but not really. They're basically shapes. It's kind of like, kids' hand signal motions for songs in Sunday school, right? They're making these shapes and calling them a thing that they kind of look like. That's basically what that is. So you just kind of let that be whatever that is and ignore it. Don't pretend it has meaning, because it doesn't. And then at the end, they're going to say, now lie here and have you time where you can stare at the sky and believe things that you feel like believing and let yourself be one with the universe. Well, you turn your brain off at that point. Like, I'm not listening to that junk. That's crazy talk right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to practice some actual mindfulness. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on my breath as a means of training myself to pay attention to how my body feels. And at the very end, it'll be over. And they'll say something really weird that's like a prayer, and you're like, yep, not doing that, not even a part of that. Nope, no way, no how. They'll be like, namaste, and you can be like, namaste, no. I'm not praying to you either. We are not one with the universe. I'm sorry. And for myself, I actually make the sign of the cross. I bow and I say Kyrie eleison at that point, and no one's ever gotten mad at me yet, but they might eventually. So, well, if you can do that, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. The biggest issue might be if somebody who is new to the faith sees you doing that and thinks you're actually doing the whole thing, right? And this is Paul's whole argument with the meat, right? Meat offered to idols from 1 Corinthians 14. So you got to be careful about that. In fact, the best thing to do is probably not in general just go to any old yoga thing anywhere, but to go to the most secular one you can find, because there are differences depending on who the teacher is. And maybe if you just learn to do it and do it in your house, right? Do a little stretching in the morning with some air, with some breathing. Now, yoga's yoga, and it's stretching. And I want to come back to, we can come back to that. We can talk about it another time. But mindfulness, to me, yoga, I don't really give a lot of time to it. I should, because my elastic bands aren't doing so great either. So in the morning, I'm trying just we do 3 positions now. As a family, we get up and we basically just stretch our backs and our hamstrings every morning together. And it's technically yoga, but it isn't yoga at all. I'm no yogi. Not even. Although, when we get in child's pose to start, we do recite the 10 Commandments, the Creed, and the Lord's Prayer together as a family. And when we're done, we finish in child's pose, we say, O Lord, open my lips. Let my mouth declare your praise. Make haste, O God, to deliver me. Make haste to help me, O Lord. And then we get up and start our day. So we have kind of made it part of our prayer tradition, but it has nothing to do with the prayer. We're just stretching our bodies. Mindfulness now. Mindfulness is the intentional stretching of your mind. Or maybe that's not even right either. But it is. It's like exercising your power to focus. We live in such a distorted and distracted age. You may not realize how distracted you are. Maybe you do. Maybe you're like, man, I feel really distracted all the time. You are. We are. We can't not be. Everything's vying for our attention all the time, and so much so that it tends to dominate us, that we are often losing control of the decisions we make because the winds of, insanity are just sweeping us away. And mindfulness didn't exactly necessarily develop for that reason. I don't know how the Buddhists, and it really comes out of Buddhist meditation from further back, how or why they did this. I do know that they were attempting to ascend, right? They're attempting to reach transcendence. They're trying to become enlightened. And in this way, again, we got to talk about this because this is key. They are confusing. They are confusing something that Christianity specifically reveals as a mystery no longer there. That there is a gap as far as heaven is from hell between the first article and the second article of our faith. What religions like Hinduism and Buddhism are doing is they are taking the first article, the study of the body, and they are thinking it is the second article, salvation. They're taking creation and they're making it into the creator, right? Just as Paul's argument out of Romans 1 and 2, right? That's the issue right there, right? And as soon as you do that, it's idolatry. As soon as you do that, it's syncretism. As soon as you do that, it's pluralism. As soon as you do that, it's wrong. It's evil. It's sin. It's just the end of all things. But if you don't do that, it's just breathing, right? And you can do this with everything. You think you're going to avoid this? If you don't have that distinction, you think you're going to avoid this just by not doing mindfulness, I guarantee you're making idols out of other stuff. You're putting your hope, your faith, your trust, and all sorts of physical things, whether it's your essential oils. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean or nothing, but whether it's that, right, or your bank account, I don't know, something more secular. Your nutritionist, your statin drug, huh? Which might actually be killing you. So don't tell me that this just doesn't apply. This only applies to this. The first and second article distinction applies to everything. And I'm going to maintain this for a while. This is why I'm the mad Christian now, is this issue. I'm mad about this particular issue that we in American Christianity, to some extent, although I can't speak for all, but definitely in American Lutheranism, are practical agnostics when it comes to the first article. Now, we say God the Father exists because we believe in Jesus Christ, but we don't actually believe God the Father exists. I mean, he does, of course, behind Jesus Christ somewhere, but the world that he made, it doesn't really exist. We don't believe that. If we did, we'd be able to at least study, look at something like mindfulness and say, well, what is that? What are they doing? Right? What are they doing? Is that breathing? Could that be good for the body? Is that thinking about how I was just distracted and then finding out how to not be distracted? Could that be good for the mind? Huh. Well, that's not paganism. That's just the way God made our brains to work. So again, let me give you the rundown or the lowdown on mindfulness. If you don't know what it is, it's pretty simple. It is meditation, but we want to understand meditation as distinct from, say, the Christian understanding of meditating on God's Word, which is to imbibe and embrace and understand it, right? It's a very knowledge-filling thing. That's not what the Eastern meditation is about at all. I wish we had different words for it. We don't. But although mindfulness kind of is a little better, although it's kind of squishy too in a sense. But the idea of meditation is the same as the idea of mindfulness. And that is that you are going to teach your brain to stop letting itself get out of control. And instead, rather than living in the future or in the past, which is what your thoughts always are doing, right? You're always thinking about there or there. You're going to ask, where am I? What is the present? And the main way this happens is by focusing on your breath initially. There's a number of different ways you can do this, but you focus on the breath. So you close your eyes and you sit there, usually with a guide of some kind. I mean, it helps to have a guide. And you just breathe in and then breathe out. And then you breathe in and you breathe out. And you try not to do it too hard. You just kind of let it be there and you say, what does that feel like? What does that feel like? You try that. I bet you can't get to 5 or 6. I mean, unless you're counting. I bet you can't get to 5 or 6 before you've been there 35 seconds to a minute and a half thinking about some other thing. And you're going to be, wait a minute, whoa, what happened? I thought I was breathing. Well, that's the point. You have no ability to focus. Your brain is so chock full of information you've not stored anywhere else that you're worried about, unfinished loops of commitment you've made with yourself, fears and anxieties brought about by stress and idolatry. and so you can't even just breathe for a few seconds. And so all mindfulness is saying, when you find that that's happened, that you lost track, well, why don't you just kind of focus on the breath again for a sec? And every time you find yourself somewhere else, just remember, I can still breathe. What's that feel like? Feel it go in, feel it go out. And you do that for 10 minutes a day. That's pretty much it. There's no voodoo in this one. Now, I mean, there can be. You could run into people who get very voodoo about this, but the primary function of the thing is not voodoo. It's just like, oh, I forgot that I was just trying to feel what the inside of my body felt like for 10 minutes. That's it. And I'd like to be able to do that better because I know, and here's kind of the key, I know that when I can do that better, I will be able to better exercise self-control. And this is where Christians should really be very interested in mindfulness because it's a tool for mastering self-control, which, of course, is a fruit of the Spirit, which we cannot, in that sense, manipulate nor create. But I'm not going to say either that the Spirit won't teach us to practice self-control until we get better at it. So, right? So if you get able to not be distracted by, well, your thoughts and your emotions as they come flying through your body, then when somebody's yelling in your face, you can actually take a step back inside your head and say, oh, this feels really awful. Normally, I would want to go do that, but I'm going to be a little more mindful about how I respond right now. Yeah. And I'm just not going to be a jerk. I'm going to try to be kind, see if I can de-escalate the situation. So self-control practice, I like that. I've never called it that before. Self-control practice. That's a good way of thinking about it. But again, like the first answer I said, you got to be super careful because you just don't know what kind of weirdo out there is like, I teach mindfulness and I never weave second article theology into it because I don't even know what that is. But Vishnu, of course, is here helping us all along. Right? I mean, you don't know when you got a teacher out there. So personally, this is where I don't know. I actually kind of like this guy at this point, although he and I would have the most vociferous argument if we ever really chatted, I think. But I've been very grateful that one of the most unspiritual of all human beings ever, at least by his branding, Sam Harris of the New Atheists, is also a leader in the mindfulness app development reality. And his mindfulness app, Waking Up, so far as the mindfulness practice itself is concerned, I haven't dug into any of he does lessons and stuff like that. I haven't dug into any of that, so I can't speak for that. But so far as the app is concerned for just the daily 10-minute practice, it's fantastic. The guy doesn't believe in anything but your own brain. I mean, he thinks that's all that's really there. And it's like, well, that's actually what we think too. It's amazing. God made the brain. That'd be the big debate, right? But he's just like, no. I mean, and so I've found his stuff, and he takes you through a lot of different schools. So it's not just the breath following. Something I've been very fascinated by recently is him talking about metta meditation, which is definitely Buddhist. I mean, this is as Buddhist as it gets. And it often gets translated as loving kindness meditation. What's interesting about that, and when I say it's definitely Buddhist, I mean it's from them. There's no question it's from them. All it really is that rather than focusing on your breath, you're going to focus on another human being. You know, your buddy, your friend, your wife, your enemy. And you're going to wish them the best. Over and over again for 10 minutes. I wish them the best. I wish them the best. I wish them the best. And it's quite powerful, really, as I've done it. Now, of course, see, I'm applying my theology all the way, so I don't say I wish them the best. I, in fact, pray. I say to my Lord, may he rejoice, or she, we'll do it for my wife. May she rejoice. May she have a free conscience. Give her your peace. Thank you for her. That's what I say. And as I'm learning the practice too, but I found it's quite amazing because if you do it with someone who is someone you love, your daughter, right, your wife, and then halfway through you shift it to someone you've been really in conflict with recently, it's pretty powerful how it transfers positive desire to love them from one to the other. Which if you're going to say, well, that's not Christian. No, it's exactly Christian. To try to love everybody the same. To try to treat your enemy as if you cared for them the way you cared for your most closest friend. I mean, it's really quite stunning in a sense. It's very practical. It's eminently practical. There's nothing actually spiritual about this. And that's the thing. A pagan can do this. There's nothing spiritual particularly about this love. It's just the love that God created for men to have for each other in general, a philia love. But to say that we can't have that because we're Christians now and the pagans love each other, I mean, what are you talking about, man? We should be better at this. We have the Spirit with us. We should want this even more. We should have a better version of this. We don't. We don't even have a word. They got this word metta that means loving kindness, entirely giving of oneself to another. We don't have a word like that. We did back in the Hebrew, keseth. The best way to translate keseth into English now is metta. That's ridiculous to me. It bothers me, but it's true. A steadfast love of the Lord, right? Okay, well, that's metta. It's keseth. Why don't we have a word like that? Why have Christians allowed that to happen? Oh, because we don't know our faith. Oh, that's why we shouldn't practice yoga. Right? Right? So that's where you want to be super hyper aware that most things going on in the world out there are religious in some way. Veganism is a religion. Social justice warriorism is a religion. Fox News is a religion. It's all religious. Because they're confusing the first and the second articles. They do not see the distinction between the created order and what God has made as saving alone, which is Jesus Christ and the Spirit's work in the church. The church, which is Jesus Christ and his words, forgiveness, baptism, supper, that. Nothing more, nothing less. But we would rather... I'm going to go off kind of on a hard left turn here, back to practical agnosticism, though. But we're like, we got that. We got Jesus. And a lot of times we're like, well, I don't need any of the rest of that stuff. That's foolish too. That's idolatry too. If you think you're not making up your own religion at home somehow, you've deceived yourself. You are. What you want to do is know what it is, right? And then repent of that. Come to the true religion, and then don't be afraid of understanding the world and realize that the pagans figure some stuff out that we don't figure out, and it doesn't have to be their religion, even though they might think it is. I mean, do you know, if the Muslims hadn't come along, we'd still be doing, like, long division in Roman numerals? Do you get that? I mean, did you know that? That's crazy right there. Math, we owe math to Islam, at least as we know it today, because they figured out a way to count without letters. Genius, really. Absolute genius. Now, the Chinese have figured it out a different way, way back, right? But should we have just rejected it? Well, the Muslims do that. Well, is it Islam or is it just creation? And that's the question you have to be able to ask then. Is mindfulness Buddhism or is it just creation understood by the Buddhists? And remember this too, I haven't said this yet, but this is pretty important. It does not apply to Hinduism, but definitely applies to Buddhism. Buddhism is a philosophy religion. So it's kind of like saying that Socrates is a religion, right? Which he kind of was and kind of is. In fact, I would say that one of the greatest false religions in the history of Christianity, greatest apostasies, greatest heterodoxies in the history of Christianity is Aristotle and Plato in the church as if they were Christianity. And they're still here, by the way, often among us. And we don't even know it. We can't tell the difference because we don't know them either. That's dangerous in that. Buddhism, Confucianism is no less dangerous and no more dangerous. What is dangerous is to reject what they understand that is in fact revealed in the scriptures as the natural law of God, to reject it because they understand it. And to say, we can't do that because they do that. Right? Walther uses this argument about chanting. When people say you can't chant because it's Roman Catholic, it's like, well, they use the Bible too. Should we stop doing that? They baptize people. Should we stop doing that? So the Buddhists are over there and they can focus their minds so as to practice self-control. Should we not do it then? Are we really supposed to not do it? It doesn't make. What are you going to do? Like hate people to prove the Buddhists wrong? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. So it's a very fine line and it's a very dangerous line, and this is part of why I'm mad. We don't have the tools to handle this because I think there's a lot of stuff out there that's just like this right now. Environmentalism. I mentioned the veganism stuff already. There's more if you go digging for it. Nothing on the top of my head at the moment. But don't pretend to me that Big Pharma and Big Ag aren't exactly telling us how to live and move and have our being these days, and we just hop when they say hop and we jump when they say jump. So I don't know. If we can't distinguish between first and second article, if we can't understand that there's a created world that's broken and fallen, but we can't operate in it with grand understanding, doubly so because of our understanding of the law as revealed in Scripture as fully true, and then applied to this world, right? The glory of the glory of God to hide a thing, the glory of kings to seek it out, it's Proverbs. To seek out what is true, while also distinguishing, guarding, keeping, cherishing that second and third article faith that is so distinct and, in fact, the only salvation of the world, the only real message that as Christians we have to give. I'm not here as a preacher of Jesus Christ to teach you about mindfulness. I don't mind teaching people about mindfulness because I just like teaching in general. I can't help it. I open my mouth, I teach. It's just my problem, right? And it's annoying. I get it. You wouldn't want to be around. I'm just talking all the time. Well, maybe not quite, but enough. Right? So I don't mind talking about it, but it's not why I'm here. It's not what the church is here for. It's not my real mission. If anything, my real mission in even talking about this stuff is to leverage our lack of understanding of it into enough of an understanding of it that we would be in conversation with those who, also understand it, and we would show them that it's not opposed to what we believe, and maybe we believe it better because we have insights they don't have because we have revelation they don't have. I mean, if you're going to do mindfulness because you think you're going to find God in your head or something crazy like that, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're going to find the devil there. But to be able to, in a moment, in the heat of the day, take a single breath, focus on the inside of my eyeballs, honestly. Let the awareness run all the way to my fingers and my toes and my body. And in that same breath, have all of the weightlifting of 10 minutes of mindfulness a day for 3 years come back like this. Why would you not want to be able to use the gift that is your body that God has given you in that way to overcome your lack of self-control and be better at it? I think it's crazy not to, really. I'm teaching my kids to do it for that reason. I wish someone had taught me earlier. It would have saved me a great deal of pain. Well, maybe not pain. It would have taught me better how to handle the pain than the than the sugar in the video games. I do still like the video games. I still like the sugar too. I'm not sure I'm ever going to, I'm sure I'll touch it again. I really don't want to though. That's a different topic altogether. So there you go. I'm going to come back to the question here for 1 sec and just make sure I got it through, right? Connecting to your body, is this pagan? It's pagan when you begin to worship it, right? It's pagan when it's your religion. It's pagan when let me say that differently. It's pagan when you think God is there. If you are going to connect to your body because you think God is there, that is pagan. That is the definition of pagan. If you are going to connect to your body because it's your body and because God gave it to you and you want to know what it feels like or maybe be able to use it better, well, then it's not paganism. It's called believing in God the Father, the maker of heaven and earth. This is not chaos out here. This is not accidental, that you were formed in utter mystery and glory. A knowledge of existence that is too wonderful for us, that we cannot fathom it, but we can experience it. And to experience it with self-control, well, that would be what Christians ought to try to do. The line not to cross, right? I mean, the line not to cross, 1 Corinthians 14, Paul says it's just not that easy. There's no one line not to cross. The meat sold in the market, what do? He says, buy it and eat it. But if somebody's upset by it, well, try not to harm them. Which, to some extent, he says, means I will choose at a certain point not to do it so as to harm them. The danger, of course, and we've seen this with the teetotaling movement, is that Christians who learn 1 Corinthians 14 will use it to harm you by saying how they're weak, and so you better stop it because I don't like it. Well, see, that's a kind of an arrogant and selfish thing, isn't it? That's a fine line. It's a fine line. Yeah. And now doubly for me as a public figure, to some extent, pretty small public figure, but public enough. Yeah. So if a Christian is offended by the fact that I breathe every morning and I pay attention to it because it helps me practice self-control, I don't know what to say, right? I don't know that I'm going to stop doing that in my house for you. Yeah. But I totally get it if you don't want to do it. Full on, man. Cool. I get it. In fact, again, like I said at the start, if you don't know your faith, you shouldn't be doing it. You need to be so convicted and so concerned and so able to absolutely smell mysticism and rationalism and moralism in everything. If you think the banners in most churches are okay, then you shouldn't be going to any yoga classes. If you think the praise song lyrics are okay, you shouldn't be going to any yoga classes. You just shouldn't be doing it. You don't have the discernment. Nah. But if you know your faith, you know your catechism backward and forward, you can distinguish law and gospel, and you get frustrated because you hear so much law preached as if it were gospel, then you're probably okay. You're probably okay. But see, you have a pastor, too, to ask about this stuff. Wouldn't it be nice if you did have some Christians who knew how to practice and talk about this stuff and did so in such a way that they didn't try to make it Christian either? Try to turn it into something about Jesus? Christian yoga, it's about Jesus. Well, no, see, that's paganism, isn't it? Now you're back in the same problem. All you've done is made Jesus into an idol. You've blasphemed his name. Don't do that either, for Pete's sake. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. It's just exercising your mind. And the fact that the Western civilization has never decided to even try to do this, well, shame on us then a little bit, huh? Theology of the Body was John Paul II, who said we don't have one, we need one. And golly, man, he was right on a number of levels. Pro-life issues are not disconnected. Not disconnected. You got other stuff I want to do today, but you got questions finally showing up here. Yes, it's probably true that most people do not know how to breathe properly, since we all live on a planet where the air's in pretty bad shape in general. So I don't even know we know what it's like to breathe. I think, of course, of Spaceballs and Perrier and all that. I did one of those oxygen treatments the other day, by the way. I was I float sometimes too. Oh my goodness, you what? Yeah, I go to float clinics sometimes. They just open one at Rockford, which is pretty cool. Still a little pricey. I can't quite do it as often as I would like, but man, you want to have your brain reboot. That's a trip is the word, but don't think of trip like as in visions and weird LSD stuff. Think of trip as in like, wow, how did I relax that fast? It's pretty sweet. But I was at a different one in Fort Wayne, and they had like an oxygen bar. I'd heard about them. I tried it, and it was kind of useless. kind of useless. So, really timely advice for you. Well, good, Linda One. I'm glad. I hope it helps. And again, I mean, if you've not gotten out of this, my advice is be careful, right? If you haven't gotten that, then let me just reaffirm this. My advice is be careful. Be very, very careful. If you can, learn from somebody who doesn't believe in God, like that there is one or any, because at least then it'll be really easy to know when they're teaching what their religion teaches. Yeah, it'll be like right on the surface. Yeah, you get someone who's like, "Oh, I'm a Christian and I believe this." It's gonna be squishy. Yeah, and so I don't think you want that. I don't think you want that. But again, Sam Harris's app, it's like $8.99 a month, which is annoying. I know subscription's killing all of us, right? But you need to get the first 10 for free. It's been invaluable to me. The Oak app is free. That's a pretty good one, although the teaching on it, not so much. But the Oak app's a good kind of tester place. Cafe Sola, I know who you are. What are you doing online in the afternoon? Since we struggle keeping mysticism out of Christianity anyways, can't this process prove sketchy also? Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why, I mean, the last thing I think we should ever do is teach it as if there's a Christian version of it. That would be the worst possible thing we should do. And all we can do is be careful. What we really need is the most secular version of it possible. We need the most Western version of it possible. You know, my mind was changed on this just a little bit. Not changed, enlightened. I was enlightened on this a little bit when I went to a naturopathic doctor because I had been wrestling with blood sugar and I was trying to do some, non-pharmaceutical attempts to deal with that before I went on pharmaceutical attempt to deal with that. And so this guy was Western-trained chiropractor, Western-born, but acupuncturist, and studied in China a bit for that end. But also, could read a blood report. In fact, the first thing he does is made me do a blood panel, and we looked at all sorts of numbers, and I found I had problems I didn't even know about. And then anyway, the long story short, it was interesting because I was asking him a little bit about this stuff, just sort of the how do you as a guy who practices Western medicine jive with things like qi, yeah, and like the meridians in the body, because all of your energy, your qi, which if you just think about it as the actual like energy, like the ATP, the mitochondria is sending through your body, like it's actually there. There is that thing there. Or you can think about it as your breath too. I mean, honestly, you're getting what is the oxygen doing for you? It's creating energy. Let that be aside for half a sec. I asked him, how do you reckon with this, with these meridians? Because the acupuncturist is trying to like relieve pressure from these 3 meridians that run through your whole body as channels and conduits for your qi, for your energy source. It all sounds very mystical and voodoo-y, right? And then he had such a wonderful answer. He said, well, here's the thing that's kind of crazy, Jonathan. He called me Jonathan. Let me teach you. And he likes to say, let me teach you. Don't we believe as Western medical practitioners that we have a circulatory system and a nervous system and a lymphatic system? Yes, of course we do. So you're telling me that there are 3 systems that are made up of channels or lines that run throughout your whole body? Yeah, I guess that is true. And what does the circulatory system do but move energy? And what does the nervous system do but send electrical signals? And what does the nervous system do the lymphatic system do but, well, change the levels of your hormones, which dramatically impact your energy? And I was like, huh. Yeah, that makes sense. He's like, yeah, so that's how most of it is. You just got to figure it out. Huh. That makes a lot of sense, right? So it's not like just because it's got voodoo talk because it comes from voodooists, right? Doesn't mean that they're actually practicing voodoo at that time. Although when they cut the chicken head off, run for the hills, right? And I'll tell you this: he didn't help me at all in terms of my own particular issue, but my wife, who suffered with migraines for years, gone. Couple needles, crazy. Absolutely crazy. Leveraging her lymphatic system basically against itself, or back on track, really putting it back in balance. Let's see here. I read that a Christian school made a yoga class that had deep mastic meaning, but took the meanings and made it. No, see, that's what we cannot do. That's paganism. That's syncretism. That is death right there. That's stupid. That's folly. Absolute folly. Slightly changing the words. So dumb. Don't do that. The word that makes me angry. See, and this is why people are worried about it. This is why people scream about it, and they're right. I'm completely with them on this. Moronic. But I should be more self-controlled and patient with the American Christians who don't have any dogma because they threw it all away so they could have rock and roll and feel good about themselves, and how they're now unable to discern much of anything because they have no standards, no norms, no creeds, no liturgy, no actual devotion. So I should have mercy upon them that they're just trapped trying to be relevant with nothing. So sad. Yikes. So I'm keeping going with you guys here for a second. So it's like the meat sacrificed by pig. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Yep. All first article things ultimately are like that. And let me take this another direction for you. This means that if you meet somebody who is offended by something that nobody else is really offended by, but they are for you because it impacts what they think of your faith. Let's say, I don't know, what was this shirt I wore? I wore a Legend of Zelda shirt, and someone didn't like it because they thought I was sending Illuminati signals. Well, let's say that's actually a person in your congregation who's a new convert, and they're just escaping out of some sort of conspiracy cult or something, right? And they're like, "Oh my goodness, you're wearing Illuminati shirts," and you're like, "No, I'm not." And like, but you are. Well, then maybe don't wear that shirt around them for a little while till they come along. But the point is not to like never be allowed to wear a shirt with triangles on it. The point is to help them eventually come along and understand, right? And so the meat after idols, 1 Corinthians 14, I think Romans 14 too, right? Or is it, I just completely get that backwards. Well, you can Google it, right? We talked about that last time. That whole section is about the first article being something you have to take care with, and don't use your freedom to harm other people, but you do have a freedom to study it and to know it and to benefit from it because God made it for you. Yeah. Some folks will have trouble, and how depending on how legalists they are. That's exactly right too. The legalists want to hold on to grace in some sort of legalistic way, and then steal it from everybody else and not let you actually live. It's quite sad. Grace, I couldn't agree more. That comment just makes me go crazy. What about agape? I'm sorry, Dean. Agape just doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it. First off, it's not English. Second off, we don't use it, right? So the thing that the Buddhists are doing with metta is it's going to become part of English over the next, I'd say, this is my guess. Okay, it's my guess. Over the next 20 years, though, the way language and the internet works, that's just going to become a word in English. And agape never did that. Why? Because we never made it do that. We could have just transliterated it like we do a bunch of other stuff in the Bible. I don't know why we didn't. That would have at least made some sense. I'm not sure agape by itself entirely captures keseth anyway. Keseth is what we should be holding on to. So it's a different word. It's got an even deeper or even more diverse spectrum of meanings shoved into a couple of letters. And but I mean, we could try. Agape is not a bad word or nothing like that. So I keep wanting to help Lynn out here. So someone who's healing from narcissistic abuse, I'm sorry, and realizing I have trouble with obsessive thoughts, and ruminations, the idea of a little breathing, it really is. I mean, it really is. To realize that the thing that you call yourself is not a singular dot of reality, but a network of experiences being given to you constantly by God through the channels of your mind, but also of your body. To be able to see that, like as it's happening, and feel the kind of you ever seen like when they do images of the brain that's like hearing sounds or music, and they show the parts that lighting up, right? To kind of be able to you're not going to see that, but you're there and you can actually have those feelings shifting throughout your system, and then learn to then, as these obsessive thoughts or whatever come along, to just turn and see them as just one of these many pieces, and then to realize that that thought's not you, right? Not all of you. It's from you. I mean, this doesn't get you out of sin or anything like that, right? Sinful thoughts are still your thoughts. But it's not all that you are. It's not who you are created, right? You're created this network. They'll call it consciousness, mind. I don't know what to call it. We don't have great language for it. Nephesh is actually, there's some more Hebrew for you. The life, the spirit, the one that you are. But that doesn't mean the spirit like goes to heaven spirit. That means the edge of man that is mind. Yeah. We haven't thought about this much. We're so Greek in our thinking. And I'm not all for just going back and being all Hebrew all the time, but so much of Plato and Aristotle have influenced the way we think about soul and body that we can't even really dig into this and be okay with saying, like, I am spirit. Huh? I am a spiritual being. Not like I have feelings, right? But that I am entirely spirit. And that entire spirit is materialized. And there's no division between these things. It's not like the soul's hiding somewhere in my head or my heart, my pancreas or something, right? It's all me all the time. And that's a powerful gift from God that is there all the time to be able to benefit from and use, rather than this sort of centralized ego I thing, which our narcissism of ourselves wants to believe we are, so we can point to it as God, and then which we end up, just berating and beating ourselves with eventually. That might have been a bit deep there, what I just said, and I'm sure it was imperfect, so don't bring me up on charges unless you have to. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, we talked about that already, and you guys are still going. I'm not staying on for 3 hours today. Yep, that's it. That's where I started, didn't I? Yep. The reason why this is so tough is because most people don't know their faith enough to be able to think about it. And we've rejected doctrine out of hand. We've said it's in the way. And so instead, what's going to happen, you're going to see people doing this, like that school. You're going to see them just going after this stuff and like stamping it Christian, baptizing it Christian, making it our own, and then running into paganism. I am convinced that American Christianity, where it is not already paganism, I'd be willing to gander 50 to 60% of congregations meeting on Sunday mornings, they have pagan worship, whether they don't know it. And they might even still call Jesus, but it's not our Jesus. What hasn't done that already, it'll be there. It'll be there in 25 to 50 years. And if you have an actual Christian congregation, Lutheran, Calvinist, even Roman Catholic, maybe the way it's looking right now, right, you are going to be on the severe minority and on the outside. But what it is, get ready. Get ready to stand firm. All right. To book on the subject, not yet. I got to deal with cessationism first, which is actually highly connected to this in a sense, but not really in the same way. But that's what I want to do first. Bible bet, yeah. Just kind of rolling through. In the Baptist church, we had the anti-rock crusade where drums and guitars were sinful, but country with appropriate lyrics seemed to be okay. Hey, man. Can't say I ain't country. That's all I got on that one. Yeah, legalism is very arbitrary. I agree. And certainly unwilling to think in most instances. I just came back from the National Youth Gathering. And I'm scared and conflicted about them. Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say. Don't go. I don't go. I'll never go. If you don't have a personal relationship with your person teacher, with Jesus, then buy everywhere. You can't trust that their Christianity is the one true faith. Yeah, right. I mean, if they're not, even if they have a relationship or if they go to your church, I mean, they have to be Orthodox. They have to care about their orthodoxy more than they care about whatever else they're doing, whether it's plumbing or yoga, right? Whatever it is, your orthodoxy has to come first. Otherwise, you're gonna sacrifice. You can't serve both God and mammon. I mean, that's what it comes down to too. And it is definitely midichlorians. There is no question about that. I don't know why you're even arguing. Come on. Single easiest thing to lower cholesterol, have oatmeal for breakfast. I don't touch grains and I will not eat oatmeal. I'm sorry. Saving me from pharma for 2 years. Well, that's good for you. Yay. I'd say getting sugar out of your diet is the best thing you can possibly do. But if oatmeal helps, yay. Are you getting organic? Yeah, I'll leave that for another time. Grace is still back with us. My parents didn't let us kids watch Star Wars till we had strong discernment in faith, so we didn't see that. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, it's pretty goofy initially, but the mysticism there. But I have quoted Yoda often enough in trying to prove like what paganism teaches. I mean, the force, all-powerful energy field, and the tree, the rock. I mean, that's pretty much it. Your body, your mind. I talk to people who believe Wendy's and Taco Bell were promoting Satanism. That's fantastic. They probably are. Oh, Giovanni. McBurney, my family's was at NIG too. Cool. All right. And baptized. American Christianity is no different than Israel when they went into exile. It's terrifying compared with this age. Yeah, it is. All right, guys. So, cool. I don't feel like I did a good job on this. I feel like it should have been shorter. I feel like, am I saying feel too much? I think it should have been shorter. I think the topic is deserving of a little more attention and value, but hopefully I've given, at least like I said at the start, a framework for wrestling with this, and that framework is to remember that the first article is not the second, that the Father, who does beget the Son and sent the Son, does not want us to forget the world he made with the Son, nor believe that it is him, nor seek to find our salvation in it. But he is in no means, and by no means, and according to the Spirit who proceeds from him, he does not want us to be set against it, but to be for it. For it groans with eager expectation with us, waiting for our resurrection to be revealed. It is the glory of God to hide a thing. It is the glory of kings to search a thing out. Bible. Yeah. Higher things. Starts tomorrow. I'll be driving early. Maybe we'll be able to do it tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to live stream my breakout tomorrow. We'll see if I can get good sound. It'll be questionable with internet, all that stuff. But if I don't live stream it, if we can't live stream it, we'll record it. We'll get it up. I don't know. I'll be trying to make some videos throughout it, but this kind of live stream is not going to happen for till at least Friday, Saturday, whatnot. Right? All right. So in either case, keep checking in. We'll see you soon. And like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, share. Join newsletter. What else? Podcast. Oh, if you haven't listened to the Mad Christian Returns, I mean, if you like this one right here, man, go grab that one. redfist.podbean.com. I mean, I go off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you do listen to it, because I go off. On first article. We got to talk about it more. We'll catch you soon. Rock on.